Tonight I want to talk about vow, and vow is a word that I think some folks struggle with. I know I did. Having been raised Roman Catholic, it conjures some other things that I probably left over from 1965 was kind of in reaction to. So it's been an interesting journey to study and think about vow in the Zen context. And I've talked about this before, I think. I couldn't recommend this book more. It's called The Vow-Powered Life by Roshi Jan Chozen Bays. Some of you have read this. Maybe many of you have. Chozen was one of the 12 successors of Maizumi Roshi, so she's a contemporary of Shishin and Bernie and Daido and the others. But it's really good. She makes it really, really understandable. And I want to dispense with this and then not refer to it so much because it can be misinterpreted a little bit. In the formal sense, in our lineage, we make a vow and we receive the precepts in a formal ceremony called Jukai. And people with these have done that. There's a group of people working on this now. They're sewing these raksus. And took a class last fall, I believe, a series of classes on vow and on precepts. And we'll do this ceremony coming up this fall. If anybody's interested in doing this in the future, we'll start this cycle again, probably in September, I think. I think we stretch it over 3 months where we offer 3 or more classes to talk about the Buddhist precepts and the commitment or the vow to receive or commit one's life to them, really. But I wanted to get that out of the way because I want to make it really clear. This is not an exclusive thing. Working with the Zen precepts, having the intention, making the commitment or the vow to try to align our lives with those precepts is open to anybody. There's no 101 or no 100 level course that you have to take in order to be able to do that. It's a very personal thing, and anyone can do it. And I would encourage, if you're inclined in this way, I would encourage you to explore this on your own. There are some fine books about the precepts and working with them. Nancy Mujo Baker's book, somebody helped me with the name of her book. She was a guest of mine, I can't remember the name of her book. It just came out and it's about the precepts. So this is something that's available to all of us and can be practiced minute by minute. It can be practiced all the time. And I'm not going to have the talk tonight be about the precepts per se. I want to talk about vow, about the act of committing to these precepts. But very briefly, there are in most iterations in our lineage, there are 16 of these precepts. 3 of them are the three, what we call the 3 treasures, or Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. Expressed differently, we would say oneness, diversity, and the inconceivable coincidence of oneness and diversity in harmony, or Sangha. More literally, we are the Sangha. We're talking about the Dharma, and the oneness that's occurring in this room, whether we realize it or not, is the Buddha. So the 3 treasures. The 3 pure precepts are expressed variously, but most commonly as cease from evil, do only good, do good for others. And then there are 10 grave precepts, and I'm not going to go through them all, but they have to do with preserving life, do not take life, tell the truth, do not lie, be generous, do not steal, don't speak ill of other people, and so forth. There are 10 of them. Together they are the 16 precepts. These are intended to be a living thing. And I don't want to overtly make a contrast here, because I don't want to infer any kind of superiority or anything like that, but they're intended to be dynamic. They're not static rules. As Nancy Baker says, something like, I'm paraphrasing Nancy Baker, she said something like, the universe doesn't do good and bad. It's pretty extraordinary when we're talking about a list like this. But she goes really deep with that comment. I'd encourage you to follow up with her and read that. They're intended to be dynamic. They're not absolute. They are practical. They are applied differently in different circumstances. Forgive me, anybody who, if I'm repeating some of this stuff, but somewhat famously, Maizumi Roshi at Zen Center of LA years ago, surrounded by, I don't think I was there at the time, it was before my time there, but surrounded by good Zen hippies, good liberal Zen hippies, was asked, is the death penalty ever appropriate? Everyone expecting his answer, of course, right? And he said, sometimes. I don't know if anybody left Zen Center at that time, but it probably sure exploded a few people's conceptions of what Zen was. But he told them and he showed them exactly what Zen is. It's dynamic. These are intended to be alive for us. Chozen Bays says, vows act like a conduit for our life energy. That's different than a rigid moral code. Living by vow, I vow to try to align my life with these principles. Living by vow is lifelong. It never ends. We never finish. There's no point where we finish our master's degree and put it in a frame on the wall and pat ourselves on the back and say, good job, what's next? This is because we never completely or finally conquer the other parts of what our nature is. We say our nature is Buddha nature, that we are connected with everything. We are one with everything. We are changing. We are empty. We're not fixed. We say all those things and they sound very Buddhist and very cool. What we don't usually say is that our nature is also to be greedy and to be angry and to be ignorant. That's forever. Welcome to it, everybody. I was just reading somebody this morning who was talking about, it was a Zen teacher talking about the expectations of his students that he be perfect. And he said, I'm sorry. I'm sorry to explode your fantasy, but it's not true. And don't expect that of me. I won't expect it of you either. So our tendency to be greedy, to be angry, to be ignorant is also lifelong. I just need a little rest. When do we get a break? We don't. We don't. And it's interesting. I didn't think of this until the other day. I'm sure everybody else has, so I'm just a couple of blocks back down the street from y'all. But this is really evident. We chant the 4 Bodhisattva Vows pretty much every day. Numberless creations I vow to receive, inexhaustible delusions I vow to dissolve, omnipresent Dharma gates I vow to experience, unsurpassable enlightened way I vow to manifest. The impossibility of ever achieving these vows or being able to put that degree on the wall and say, look, I did it. I achieved the Bodhisattva vows. It's stated in the words that are used in the vow itself. Countless beings. Well, if there's countless beings that I'm trying to save, when am I done? Is there a Saturday and a Sunday in this endeavor? Inexhaustible delusions. Omnipresent Dharma gates. They just keep coming. But making a commitment, making a vow to strive for these things that we know right up front is impossible is the very heart of our practice. It's our heart. We do it because we love the world. I thought of this the other day. These are a living thing. They're not static. They're dynamic. We breathe with them. Over the 30 or 40 years that I spent doing business, corporate setting, I must have been involved in writing a mission statement, 10 times, where we would bring in a consulting firm that would charge us $50,000 for a week and take us through a whole exercise of writing a mission statement that we would dutifully wordsmith and argue over whether it's and or us or we or whatever, endlessly, ad nauseum. Writing by committee is not advisable. But we would do that and pay a lot of money and end up with a beautiful document that went either on the wall or in the drawer. And that was the end of it. This is not that. And we make sure that we remind ourselves that this is not that, because we get together, some Zen centers get together every month and renew these vows. We do it quarterly. We're going to do it again in September at our September session. I invite everyone to come, whether you've formally taken the vows or not. It's a wonderful ceremony. And we say them out loud together in a rather formal, somewhat ritualized way. With really the sole purpose, the intention of supporting one another. We do this together. If I make a vow and I don't tell anybody that I did, I'm going to cheat. I'm a little cheater. But if everybody knows, we're holding one another accountable. Not in a rigid way, but just by being present, by bearing witness to one another, by smiling, or by sitting down and talking about, do you mind listening to me for a little bit? I really screwed up the other day. I'd like somebody to know about this. Here's another misconception about vows and this precept practice, but about the vow. It's not a promise to improve. Practicing with the vow and with these precepts, it's not a self-improvement project. This is deeper than that. Because in one sense, we're already perfect. How could we not be? Part of the popular vernacular to say it's all one, man. Sounds good. But when the rubber meets the road, I'm not sure we really believe that. So it's not a self-improvement project. We're not trying to get better. We're not setting our jaw and gritting our teeth and, steeling ourselves against swearing or getting angry or telling a lie or being jealous. It's not that. I said I wasn't going to talk about precept too much, but it's kind of hard not to without stepping into it a little bit. It occurs to me, and by the way, all of this, most of you know this, Zen is not dogmatic. We don't have any beliefs. And so don't take what I'm saying as being the truth. Don't believe me. Do your own science. I don't have the truth. This is just my perspective of stuff. So, but one of my perspectives is that these precepts, and then the commitment or the intention or the vow to live by them, are kind of a mirror. So we get to see ourselves. I recommend everybody, even if you've formally done this, just to try something tomorrow, next day, for a couple days, for a week, whatever. Just pick one of these. Pick one, pick one, in fact, that's probably most troublesome for you. And wake up in the morning and just remind yourself, today I'm going to make a special effort not to stop myself from doing that, but to pay attention when the urge to do this thing comes up. I'm Irish. I can talk a blue streak about other people. I'm good at it. Sometimes I can even make it rhyme. Feels good. It's like scratching an itch. That guy is a friggin' asshole. And boy, I can get going. And that's a good one for me to pay attention to, especially when I turn the TV on. Because I tell you, there's some friggin' assholes on TV. I'm kidding, of course. But just to pick one, maybe it's having a hair trigger. Maybe it's, finding yourself, engaged in being angry or expressing anger. But just to pick one and hang out with it all day. And if you really want to go further with it, sit down at the end of the day and make some notes. How'd that go? It's an extraordinary practice. And it's one of the ways to work with these, too, by the way. And as I was saying, it's like a mirror. I'm going to put up this mirror that says, be careful about talking bad about other people. Because you really are them, and they really are you, whether you're experiencing it right now or not. It's true. So what am I doing when I'm criticizing that person or demeaning them? What am I really doing? And there's the mirror. And then I find myself doing it. There it is. We'll get to what we do with that in a minute. And this is not a matter of scoring ourselves. I would hope that if we do this, we're not going to put up a chart on the wall with the days of the week and stuff and putting numbers in or hash marks or something up there. And then you get to the end of the month and you go, I really improved. It's not a matter of scoring yourself, and no one else is scoring us either. We're on our own. We do this practice alone, together with everyone else. And these are beyond good and bad. If I go off on that person, whether I know him or not, I'm not a bad guy. I just did that. It's my karma. It's the residue of the life that I've lived that's coming up and making decisions for me that are not the ones that I really want in my heart. This is as deeply personal as it goes. And we all fail at this. And that's where the real intimacy comes from, is getting comfortable with being an utter failure. I want to be careful stating it that way because I don't want to be demoralizing, but it's just the truth. You know, we do fail at this. And we need to get comfortable with that because we're not done yet. We need to face ourselves and be careful not to add any guilt, not to add any shame, not to make up a story. Perhaps we share our story or share what happened with someone else. Then we begin to become intimate in community. We recommit to our vow and we get up and go again, just like we do in Zazen. If we're doing counting practice in Zazen and we get to 7 and start thinking about the Olympics or something, and 5 minutes later realizing we haven't been counting our breaths for 5 minutes, we just start again. And it's the same thing with our vows. We just start again. When we get together to renew these vows, we accept this, that we fall short. And then the term we use is atonement. It's another term that took me a while to get comfortable with it because it sounded a little Catholic. And I love the Catholic Church. I don't mean to be critical. But I had a 12th grader's reaction in 1965. But atonement, and it really made sense to me when some teacher, it might have been sensei or somebody beforehand, broke it down into at one meant. At one meant. So we're not confessing, we're not asking to be absolved, because there is no absolution. We're not asking to be redeemed. In fact, we're not trying to make it go away. I mean, you know, and my little Catholic conception of sin was probably very 1950s and very binary. And I'm sure there's a broader, better conception of it in Catholicism. But it was very much that this is a bad thing, and I need to go talk to Father Sweeney so he can make it go away. Because it feels terrible. I feel shitty. I hit my brother. Father Sweeney, can you make that go away? Yeah, go say these prayers and it'll be good. We're not doing that. We're at one-ing with hitting my brother. Geoff hits Peter. It made Peter cry. Geoff feels bad, and it's not going away. And I'm holding all of that. This is my life. As close as our beating heart. And there is nobody checking. Daido Roshi said, there's nobody checking on whether you are letting go of thoughts or sticking with thoughts. So it has to do only with you and your own integrity, being honest with yourself about your practice. In the silence of your own zazen, only you know whether you are diligently practicing, and this could apply to your vow. He said it's the same thing with the precepts. Only you know when you have actually violated a precept, and only you can be at one with that violation. You notice he didn't say, only you can go ask Father Sweeney to make it go away. Only you can be at one with it. To be at one with it means to take responsibility. To take responsibility is to acknowledge yourself as master of your life. To take responsibility empowers you to do something about wherever it is that is hindering you. So this is science. It's not right or wrong, it's not good and bad. It's really science, so we learn about ourselves. Why does Geoff hit his brother? I'd like not to do that any longer. But I can't stop doing that by forcing on myself a stricture or a structure of a code that says if you do this, you're bad, so don't do it, or some bad stuff's going to happen to you. That's not going to work for me. Maybe it worked for somebody else, I don't know. Didn't work for me. I've got to experience, where's that coming from? These precepts are literally the description of what a Buddha looks like. We're vowing to do science on ourselves to find out how come we're not in accord with them so often. Daido goes on, as long as we blame, as long as we avoid or deny, we remove from the realm of possibility the power to do something about our lives. We become totally dependent upon the ups and downs we create around us. There's no reason we should be subjected to anything when we have the power to see that we are the creator of everything. Kyoto Sensei talked about co-creation over the weekend. To acknowledge that simple fact is to take possession of the precepts, to make them our own, to give life to the Buddha. Just a little bit more and I'll let up. When we do this, stuff gets stirred up, especially when we fall short. Especially when I hit my little brother. Now, this happened 65 years ago, so we get along really well right now, but I'll use it as an example. Stuff gets stirred up. Guilt, here's a big one. Self-loathing, shame, despair, inadequacy. I'm never going to be good enough. Look, I do this all the time. I just keep doing this. I give up. That stuff can come up. Or on the other side, the really sticky one, superiority. Check me out. I'm getting better. Or some old stuff, resistance, or the feeling, and I don't use the word child accidentally here, the feeling of being an obedient or a disobedient child. These are normal. I can claim one of those. I have, I was a good boy for the most part, other than hitting my brother once, I'll never forget. And I thrived on parental and authority approval. I still do. So that comes up for me sometimes. So what do we do about that? Thank you to Sokyo for our almost our logo screensaver. We do with those emotions the same thing that we do with everything in Zazen. We let it come, we let it go, we let it be. There goes that feeling of Geoff being a little boy, not getting approval from people. They misunderstood me. I actually did that right. I did it right. It's not my fault. That old stuff comes up. What do I do with it? Let it come up. Damn, that's uncomfortable. Okay, be uncomfortable. Let it be until it's ready to go. Or you know it, it's gone. So again, we do this practice together. Again, every Zen center, we renew the vows. It's called Fusatsu ceremony. And in fact, when someone first formally takes the vows, we do it as a group, not a private ceremony. We rely on each other. We rely on our Sangha. Our voices in unison, and we gently witness one another's intentions. I see you committing to doing this. It becomes much more conscious, much more powerful when we do this in public. As we go further into this, it becomes more second nature. Or first nature. But those tendencies to be greedy and angry and ignorant, those are our companions for life. We might as well get friendly with them and learn to recognize them. Doing this is lifelong. Finally, there's a bigger benefit to all of this. Chozen Roshi said, the vow, I love this, I just love this, the vow of a single person multiplied through time and space can affect the entire world. Our vows are important because everything we do counts. Every action matters. So I would say to that, practicing with our vows is how we save all beings. It's how we make peace in the world. And to borrow an expression from Thich Nhat Hanh, it's how we realize interbeing. How we realize interbeing. I went longer than I planned on. Thank you for listening, for your attention.